Now this is a somewhat complex example, so let's go through it character by character. Notice that the text is completely surrounded by double quotes, and then we've got a variable called log name, which is obviously prefixed by a $sign. Now, is log name going to be substituted for the actual variable contents? And the answer is yes, it will, because the $sign remains special inside double quotes. So if the $sign remains special, then some strange behavior is going to happen when we try and print out $1,000. So we actually put a backslash in front of the $sign to get the $sign to be non-special just for that one instance. And then some other text enclosed in back quotes, that date plus %b, and I'm not going to explain to you just at this point what enclosing text within back quotes does, but suffice it to say that whatever it does, it's going to continue to do it, because back quotes remain special when they're inside double quotes. Then of course we have the closing double quote right on the end of the line. Now that will then give us Peter. Well, let's assume Peter is the current login name, so that will, the log name will be substituted there, so we'll get Peter made $1,000. The $sign comes out beautifully there because we put a backslash in front, and the date actually gives us November if we happen to be doing this in the month of November. So it is somewhat complex, the use of double quotes. So let's compare and contrast single quotes with double quotes. They are almost exactly the same, except for the use of the $sign and the use of the back quotes inside the double quotes, or inside the single quotes, as the case may be. So when would you typically use one, and when would you typically use the other? Well, I have a personal rule that I use in this particular situation. I usually put things inside double quotes because it gives me the convenience of substituting variables and using back quotes. And the only time I use single quotes is when it's absolutely necessary to, when I absolutely want to guarantee that not a single character inside the single quotes is special. And there are very specific instances where that is useful, such as passing special search parameters to grep or find or something like that. So maybe as a rule of thumb, keep everything inside double quotes unless it doesn't work, and then perhaps put it in single quotes and see if that fixes anything. So let's move on and look at back quotes. Back quotes actually have got nothing to do with special characters. They are not really related to single quotes and double quotes. Single quotes and double quotes are related to each other, but they're not related to back quotes. So this is what back quotes do. If you put some text inside backward quotes on a command line, that is treated as its own individual Unix command. Everything between the quotes is treated as a separate command and is executed in its own shell. And any output that is generated is substituted into the script line, replacing what was inside the backquoted. Now that sounds awfully complicated, and it is somewhat complicated. It does take a bit of getting used to. You might recall that example from the date that I showed you. Well, let's have a look at some more examples. Now you do this. Enclose who pipe to sort inside backward quotes. Then what would happen is the who program would run, and the output would be sent to the sort program for sorting, and then the output of that would get stored in the variable called list. It's very handy to be able to do this occasionally, to take the output of a given program and assign it to a variable. Then, if I were to echo out that variable, I would get the following. Fred is on 2, and he's on from the particular date. Then Peter's on TTY01 on a different date, and Tony's on TTY05 on another date as well, which is almost exactly what you'd expect, except all the new lines have disappeared. So any text that is generated from a command inside backward quotes has all of the new lines removed, or at least turned into spaces, and all of the multiple spaces and multiple tabs are all resolved into a single space. There are very good reasons for it doing that, and you can think of that as a particular nuance or feature of output generated by commands inside backwards quotes. Let's look at some more examples of the back quotes, because it does take a little bit of getting used to. So here's an example, echo, and then the thing that I want to echo is the date is something today. Now that something is the result of the date command. So basically take the date command, and I want the date to be in a particular format, MDY, Y. So I want the date command to generate some particular output, and then I want that particular output inserted on that line in place of all the stuff inside the back quotes. So let's see what we get. We get the date is 08/22/01 today. If I ran that again, but this time without the arguments to date, then it would simply say the date is Wednesday, August 27th, 1638:42 EST 2001 today. Or I could be a little bit crazier and have nothing to do with dates. I could just mix it up a bit, and I could say ls, or any Unix program could be put there. The date is chapter 2, chapter 4, contacts, log files, blah 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 blah, which of course has nothing to do with today's date, but it is the result of a particular command. Notice that it all appears on one line, simply separated by spaces. So of course things you can do there are myfiles equals back quotes ls, back quotes. Now the ls program has run, but the output from the ls program has, instead of going to the screen, has been assigned to the variable called myfiles. So then of course I could, at any time I could say echo $myfiles, and then I get a list of all the files in this directory. So I hope that will be a good demonstration of the use of the backwards quotes. We're going to use that considerably throughout the remainder of this course. And of course we're probably going to use the single quotes and double quotes even more. So it's vitally important that we have a good grasp of the difference between all of these three things. I would, if I were you, probably go back and review this particular module now to make sure it's very clear in your mind, because it will trip you up in the future, I promise you.